live from Studio B and KPRC2. Houston Life starts now.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Houston Life on this Wednesday, May 25th. I'm Courtney Savala.
Hi, Courtney. Hi, everyone. I'm Derek Shore. Typically, this is an hour when we like to laugh, have a good time, but we certainly cannot ignore the horrific events that unfolded yesterday in Uvalde, Texas. We are standing by for a special report. President Biden will be speaking. We will take that special report and broadcast it live on television, but you can continue watching Houston Life on our website, houstonlife.tv, and on our YouTube channel. So regardless of what happens during this hour, we will be on digitally.
Absolutely. And you know, after yesterday's events, like you, we are heartbroken, we're saddened, we're angry, and we're all trying to just navigate today and have these difficult conversations with our loved ones, our babies, our children.
Yeah, and as a team at Houston Life, this morning we were messaging each other. Last night we were having these conversations. How do we put on the show? Who should be the guests? What do we discuss? So just know that as you are trying to navigate all of these feelings, we are doing the same. But again, we simply cannot ignore what happened yesterday.
You know, and I think we have had these difficult conversations here on the show, right? But I think also many of you have told us over the last couple of years that you've also leaned on us for a little bit of an escape for 60 minutes to just kind of not deal with the present, and we understand that, and we hope that we can provide an exhale today and also provide a platform for a conversation.
Yeah, very well said. So we've invited leaders from our community and mental health experts to weigh in and offer advice over the next hour.
And as the school year comes to a close, we've invited local superintendents who can explain what measures their districts are taking to help your kids stay focused and safe in the classrooms and, of course, on campus.
We'll also hear from licensed therapist Dr. Shayna D. Lewis, who is a mother and can help address the long list of questions your children may be asking. Looking forward to having her joining us live in studio.
And grassroots efforts to honor the children lost. Joe Sam has a story on how we can all help.
We'll go to him in just a bit. Plus, the healing power of music. We'll have a live performance in studio. Looking forward to that.
Music is a little bit of healing, right? It does the body good and the soul good. Looking forward to hearing from him too.
Yeah, and through the hard times, I mean, we've certainly had many over the past few years. I mean, with COVID, the death of George Floyd, which was 2 years ago now, hard to believe we're marking that anniversary. And there are times when, like, do you remember when September 11th happened and people were saying in New York City you didn't hear any honking?
Yeah.
The cabs were a bit nicer, and people have a tendency, I think, to be reminded of humanity when we go through hard times and we hold each other a little more closely than maybe we normally do. And sometimes it's disheartening to see just how quickly people fall back into those old patterns.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that through all of this, through what happened in Uvalde, maybe we can all have a discussion and just be kind to each other and be a little more understanding, because already we're seeing a little glimmer of kind of like the unpleasant nastiness and the political side that can come out of situations like this. And if we could all just be a little bit nicer, maybe we would make a little more progress.
Right, yeah, and listening, right? We always say God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Listening more, I think, helps in this time too.
Yeah, yesterday we were at the Houston Museum of Natural Science in the middle of our live show when we heard the news, and I mean, you and I were together watching this unfold on television when our show was interrupted, and it felt like a physical gut punch for me, and I think based on what I saw of you, you felt the same way.
Oh, completely. I mean, I have 2 school-age children, so yeah, couldn't wait to get home and hug them.
Yeah, and yesterday was AJ's birthday.
It was, yeah. You know what? And we ended up having a great afternoon with him, and it was, gosh, I did not think that I was going to get really emotional, but yeah, we ended up celebrating with him, as rightfully so. He's 11, and we shielded him some of this news, and we just had a good birthday celebration.
I'm glad. I was texting with a lot of my friends, and even Chris, our director, wrote to me, and he said, you know, I'm struggling with my wife Leslie to find a way to actually talk to our twin girls who.
And she's an educator.
Yeah, and she's a teacher. And he was saying it's interesting because they were concerned about her being back in the classroom today.
Right.
And I mean, it's when I think back to when I was a young person in elementary school, we didn't have active shooter drills. We didn't. I mean, none of this was, Columbine hadn't happened. That was in the late 90s. And I graduated high school in 1999. And so I've heard people say, well, this is just the reality of the world. I refuse to accept that this is okay or normal or to be expected. I am hopeful that in some way, someday we can find a way to put an end to this.
Right, and there has to be an end to this type of headline. There really has to be, because as you were saying about, intruder drills is what the younger school-age children call it. Those are, I likened it to the tornado drills that I had as a child, right? You had those once a month to figure out how to handle that. And I don't even think we do weather drills. I mean, this is what our kids are dealing with.
Yeah.
This is the reality.
Yesterday, when I left the Museum of Natural Science, of course, many of us were feeling like we were in a fog hearing this news. We had a midterm election. Do people remember that? Mm-hmm. I went to vote. And at my local polling place, well, Brandon and I went together because we always do, it's a tradition. I was number 201. Only 200 voters in my specific party voting at the location yesterday. And I just thought, wow, that's pretty low turnout. Many people didn't even realize yesterday was an election day. And I know people get so busy in their lives doing their thing, but it is critically important that we are hearing from our leaders actual plans instead of just, you hear this phrase, thoughts and prayers, which now just bugs me because I've heard it so many times. Go and vote and put people in office who will actually do something.
Well said. Amen. Okay, listen, thank you for being here with us today. This is part of the process for us as well. And still to come, we're bringing in local superintendents and police chiefs for a panel discussion, what parents need to know about local safety plans and what changes need to be addressed for the future.
And up next, your kids will start asking, if they haven't already, tough questions. How do you answer? What do you say? We're getting expert advice from licensed professional counselor Dr. Shayna D. Lewis. That's when Houston Life returns right after this.
Scoot over. Thank you.
Welcome back to this special edition of Houston Life. With yesterday's news, many families had some pretty tough conversations last night. Here with expert advice for parents and caregivers navigating these discussions, licensed professional counselor Dr. Shayna D. Lewis. Dr. Lewis, we always love having you on the show. Usually it's after something terrible like this, and I know a lot of parents out there were not alone last night when they were struggling finding the words to say, maybe starting the conversation, or finding the answers when their children were asking some pretty tough questions.
Yes, yesterday was a tough day, I think, for all parents. And one of the things that I want parents to realize is that we got to start helping our children to cope. So we're going to run through, what does that look like? The very first part of this, Derek, is you got to consider, what do they already know? And how do they feel about it? So the questions, I have two kids, 13 and 15. My first question to them is, what have you heard? What do you know? Because they got other kids at school, they got phones, there's social media.
Yeah.
They got a lot of access.
Right, they've probably heard, right? And elementary school kids knew probably before they even got home from school.
Before they got home. So find that out first so you know where they're starting with their information, and to correct anything that may be inaccurate. Because you know how we can, rumors get started, if you will, and things can run and they're not even accurate. So to make sure it's accurate, but also to ask, how do you feel about it? What are you thinking about it, based on what it is that they know?
And before we get to the rest of the acronym, what about parents who have the philosophy that, okay, if my child here at home doesn't really know anything about what happened, I'm just going to pretend it didn't happen? Dangerous strategy?
You know, I get it. I understand it. You want to protect them as much as possible, but more than likely they're going to be around other people or children at some point who do know, and there's a conversation, and they're less equipped when they have no information.
But how do you know when the information, though, might be too much for them? Is it based on their age?
It is. So that would be the O. You want to offer age-appropriate information. They can't take, young kids cannot emotionally absorb all of the details of what happened. So the language sounds very different in the conversation versus an older child where you can talk about details because they're already going to know a whole lot of them. They're going to tell it to you, actually.
Yeah, well, and let's say that your child, maybe they're not asking a lot of questions. Maybe they're a little bit more reserved. How much do you offer? How much do you volunteer?
Yeah, I think you talk about in general terms of, you know, something bad happened today in the world. Perhaps there were some other kids who might have been in danger. You don't have to go into all of the details if they have no information about those things, especially if they're very young. But you don't want them to be shielded as if it did not happen, because this is the world that they're in, and they have a right to be honest with them.
Honesty, very important.
Yeah.
Okay, as we continue with the word COPE, the acronym, let's get to the P. This, you say, purposefully limit media exposure.
Yeah. So our kids have a lot of access, don't they, Derek, to a lot of social media, a lot of TV.
Many screens.
Too many screens. But as parents, you want to limit it. Why? Because images are traumatizing. What they see will sear in their mind, and now they're seeing those visuals, and it may not be of anything directly related to what exactly happened, but even the aftermath, people crying about it, people being on TV and the news talking about it. That is excessive and overwhelming to their system. Limit it. For little kids, you can cut it off completely, really. And your conversation. Know what's happening in your background. You may be listening to the radio or watching, or TV is on and you're not watching it, but they're hearing it. That counts too.
So turn that TV off.
Turn it off.
Okay, let's get to the E in the word COPE. The word is ensure, so ensuring normalcy and check-ins in the days to come.
Yes, that is so important. Returning back to a sense of normalcy, routine is where our children find security and stability. They know what to expect. So as soon as we can return to what's normal, like celebrating birthdays or doing the things we were already going to do this weekend, do those things, but check in with them, because how they feel today may be different a couple days from now as it continues to kind of sink in. So don't think because today they're fine that they may not be fine in a couple of days. You want to make sure you keep checking in.
Continue checking in. We're out of time, but very quickly, for parents out there who have young people who right now are just afraid to go back to school, even though there's a few days left for many students for the rest of the year, what advice for them?
I would say hear your children out, encourage and support them, let them know that they are safe, you are here for them, and that their school is as well.
All right, Dr. Shana D. Lewis, we've got to leave it there. Thanks so much for always making time for us here at Houston Life, and thanks for your advice.
You're welcome.
And to our viewers, you can get Dr. Shana's full tip sheet by texting the word COPE, C-O-P-E, to 55444. We'll also be sharing a link to connect with her on our website, houstonlife.tv. Thanks once again, Dr. Lewis. Welcome. Now let's send things over to Ms. Courtney Zavala. Hi, Courtney.
Hi, Derek. Thanks so much. I always enjoy hearing from Dr. Lewis. During tragedies like the shootings in Uvalde, people come together to support each other and support perfect strangers. It happens, right? Whether it's around the world, across the country, or just across the state. Joe Sam found one man whose mission is to support others, and he's doing that now and joining us. Hi, Joe.
Hey, Courtney, that's right. Community members here in Houston are devastated by that tragic event that took place at the elementary school, which is why they're helping and stepping up, just like Kenneth Lockerman. He's a 70-year-old community member who has been doing this time after time. Every time there's a school massacre or event that happens like this, he did the same thing back in 2004 during the Russia school massacre, and then again in 2012 during the Sandy Hook massacre that happened there at that elementary school. And now he's doing the same thing here in Houston, organizing a visual called Light in the Darkness. He's asking people to come out in Galveston. It's going to be happening on the intersection of 35th Street and Seawall Boulevard, and he wants people to come out and really show their support. This is what he had to share with me as he is organizing this amazing vigil.
Unfortunately, this is becoming too common an event, and the tragedy there is we can't get used to it, and I don't know how we can ever heal unless we can come together, maybe heal a little together, share what we're thinking together. That's the idea of the vigil, to have us get out there, share our thoughts and care, and somehow that can be a message to the folks in Uvalde that they're not alone, and that whatever little bit of light that we can shine for them is good for all of us.
Again, he is definitely wanting to shine that light tonight. It's going to be starting right before sunset at around 6:30. He's asking people to show up at the intersection of 35th Street and Seawall Boulevard. He wants you to bring posters, candles, flashlights with cares and thoughts on there to show that you're actually giving some kind of support back and helping the people that are dealing with this tragic event that took place and showing that support to their family members and the victims there. So we're going to go ahead and send things back to you guys. We're going to have all that information about the vigil that's taking place up on our website, HoustonLife.tv. Courtney, Derek.
All right, Joe, thanks very much for that. Still ahead, a panel discussion with local superintendents and police chiefs about plans in place to keep our kids safe at school, what's currently happening, and which changes should be addressed.
Plus, a look at how we can all be more proactive in the conversations we can start at home with our families. I sit down with Rania Mancarios, the CEO of Crime Stoppers of Houston. That's coming up next on Houston Life. Well, welcome back. You know, when we hear about the Well, welcome back. You know, when we hear about the tragedies like what happened in Uvalde yesterday, for many parents, your mind starts to wonder, could this happen at my child's school? And what can we do to prevent another tragedy? Should I also keep my kids home today? Right now, it seems like there are so many questions and not a lot of answers. Here with some insight on keeping our kids safe, we want to bring in public safety expert and, of course, mom, Rania Mankarios. Rania, welcome back to the show. It's always great to see you. Your day job, CEO of Crime Stoppers Houston, so you are our expert when it comes to crime. And listen, you and I are friends. I'm going to be very honest with everybody here. I feel like we have so many emotions going on right now, right? Yeah. I mean, there's the disbelief, the devastation, the sadness, and now I'm angry.
Yeah.
I am so angry, and this is so normal. I mean, what do we do with all this anger that we have?
We've got to channel it into action. And what we say, look, we've been in the school safety space since 1997 in classrooms, talking to kids. We notice that these things flare up. People talk about them, and 2 weeks later, all the cameras and the lights and the conversations that were there, they've moved on, unfortunately, to the next tragedy. And as they should. But at the same time, we want families, we want parents specifically to channel these feelings into action. We want you to go to your local school, look at the plan. We want you to have conversations with your district on what they do in the event of an active shooter. We want you to have conversations with your kids, as scary and as awkward as that might be, and have a plan and be comfortable with the information that's presented to you at this point and be willing to change what you're not happy with.
These are such great action plans, and I do feel like when it comes to Crime Stoppers and that conversation, the Safe Schools program, you do break it down. You break it down for the students, the teachers, and the community, and that's really important, and anybody can request to hear about that.
Absolutely. Everything we do is free. Our Safe School Institute offers free programming, obviously, for the schools. Again, boots on the ground, kindergarten to 12th grade, talking about all these very difficult issues in an age-appropriate manner. But then we bring the conversations to teachers, to administration, to school-based law enforcement, and then to the parents. Look, it is scary. We don't want to think about this, but we have to wrap our minds around the reality, the growing reality that this is happening and can happen where we live and where we send our kids to school. So are you okay today with the information you have? Are you okay today with what you know of the school plan? And if you think, God, I don't even know what the information is and I don't even know what the school plan is, then today you have some homework to do. And we all have that homework to do.
Absolutely. I mean, our kids now are doing these drills, active shooter drills within our schools, like what I liken to tornado drills when I was a kid, right? I mean, these are things that are happening. And as parents or caretakers in the community, we need to know what they're teaching our kids and how our kids are prepared. If we don't know, we're not doing our job.
Right. And then what do you do? I mean, you think of these families in Uvalde, and it's just hit too close to home. These are young, these are babies. You think of what they heard in the school, the gun sounds, the screaming, the terror, the feelings. It's too much. It's too much. And then you think of parents desperate to get a hold of their children. That's when you need to understand, where are they taking our children? Where's the meeting point? How do I know if my child's gone to a hospital or is in a classroom or is at the safe spot? What is the safe spot? The more information, you'll never regret knowing what that information is before a tragedy. You'll be 10 steps ahead. And that's the hard part, is dealing with the chaos during the traumatic event. If we can mitigate that chaos, that's a step in the right direction.
It certainly is. And I think if we're going to learn from anything in this conversation today, Rania, is to really have that line of communication with our kids, with our teachers. And the call to action now is ask questions.
Ask questions, be on guard, and listen, we've got to start looking at social media posts for our children and their friends. We know that this shooter posted 2 images, or an image of his 2 weapons, made a comment online. We've got to take all of these threats and comments seriously. A joke doesn't matter. It's still a terroristic threat. We've got to report them, know how to report them. We've got to be consistent in educating kids that if you make this type of threat, there will be serious consequences. And engage a community, a school community, where every person has a role in their safety.
Rania Mankarios, it's always great to see you, and sadly under these circumstances today, but we appreciate your perspective.
Thank you.
And we do have a link to connect with Rania and Crime Stoppers of Houston on our website. That's houstonlife.tv. After the break, we're continuing this discussion on keeping our kids safe at school with a panel of local superintendents and public safety experts. That conversation is coming up next right here on Houston Life.
Do you have one of those?
Well, welcome back to Houston Live. Courtney and Derek back with you, and we are on a special report, so we appreciate you streaming with us and whatever platform you are on. But it's now been more than 24 hours as an 18-year-old gunman opened fire in a Uvalde elementary school, killing at least 21. It's 19 students and 2 teachers.
Unbelievable. As Texas and the nation are mourning this tragedy, many questions are being asked about what can be done to make our schools safer.
And speaking of school safety, it's time now for a roundtable discussion. We are joined by a lot of people here in studio, superintendents and police chiefs from the city, suburban, and rural areas as well. Okay,
so we have a long list to get to. Our guests in studio, thank you so much, by the way, for joining us on such short notice. We know it's a busy time. Phones have been ringing off the hook. We have Larry Berger, superintendent with Pearland ISD. We have Captain Walker with HISD Police. We have Dr. Tori C. Hill with Channelview ISD. We have Robert A. O'Connor with Edna ISD. And we have Ashley Miller, Rhodes School for the Performing Arts. And by Zoom, we have Stephen McCandless with Cleveland ISD. So thanks once again to all of you.
We appreciate you all so much for being here. First of all, let's start with show of hands. And the question really goes out to everyone in person and, of course, on Zoom. Are there any safety measures that you all changed today on campus in light of what happened, whether that was backpacks, visitors, school parties? We know we're getting to the end of the school year. So were there any changes that were implemented today that weren't there yesterday? Just a show of hands. Okay, we have a few. Dr. Hill, let's start with you with Channelview. We saw your hand go up, and tell me, what were the changes that you made today?
So first and foremost, the first change was just to increase the presence of our police officers across the district, and so we've enhanced the presence of our officers. We also communicate with our students the expectations of their behavior as they continue to end out the school year, but also the expectation that if they see something, say something, and so making sure that our students also take responsibility for their safety as well.
And Ashley Miller, your hand went up. What's different at your school?
So we have asked all visitors, parents, teachers, staff, just leave your bags in the car. Leave backpacks, purses, bags, everything in the car. Come with your ID, and everyone has to wear a badge.
Were there any absences? You know, did you feel that parents really took advantage of that, and a lot of kids weren't in school today? Did we see that? You're nodding. Significant amount, would you say?
I would say, at one of our campuses, yes.
Okay.
Pearland ISD Superintendent Larry Berger, so describe to us in your district what's happening with safety. And I know this is an evolving conversation, right? Every incident will inform the community about how best to proceed. But what are some of the policies that have evolved in your district?
Well, some of the policies for us, we recently passed a bond and we hardened our exteriors and our interiors. We added security vestibules, we added access controls, we added more cameras, but we really are focusing on the preventative side because we always kind of respond to when it happens and what can we do. We try to make sure that we're capturing the kid before it happens. We're making sure we have mental health supports and character education and mentorship to where we can reach any student that is struggling and try to prevent these incidents from happening.
And Captain Walker, you represent, of course, HISD, the largest school district in our area. What can you tell us today that was implemented on campuses?
So we haven't made any changes. We have a security system in place. We have the cameras. We have a police officer on all of our secondary campuses, and we have over 40 patrol officers that respond to the elementary schools. And we're just increasing our patrols around in and out around the district.
Superintendent O'Connor with Edna, so your school is already on break at this point, so you don't have to worry about students not coming back to the classroom. But I understand training is already underway. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, from the rural perspective, we you know, when you're out in the outskirts of town, we don't have as much law enforcement presence. We have one SRO for the district and 4 campuses. So, you know, yesterday I think there was a law enforcement presence on the campus within 3 minutes of the incident starting, but it still is that time frame between when it starts and when someone's able to engage that, you know, unfortunately Uvalde lost at this point 22 people as a result of that. And so we've instituted a Guardian program that we do a lot of training with the local city police department and some of the other law enforcement agencies. We're lucky to have law enforcement representation on the school board And so we've done a lot. We bring in outside trainers. We have a group of teachers and administrators that we take through 3 to 5 day training every summer and go through what we want to accomplish with that. And mostly it is that transition period between when the incident first starts and us getting a law enforcement presence for sure engaged on the campus, that we want to be able to hopefully take the focus away from them being able to corner a group of kids somewhere and make them concentrate more on avoiding what we're doing.
We do want to bring in Stephen McCandless, Superintendent in Cleveland ISD. I know you've been nodding and you're joining us via Zoom. We appreciate you. If there were some changes, I think if I recall at the top here, you did raise your hand. If you can go back to that, what were some of the changes there at Cleveland ISD?
Absolutely. We're proactive here instead of reactive. So we implemented our no backpack policy for this last week. It started on Monday, but the major change we did from yesterday to today is we have 3 shifts of our CISD police officers, the ones who work 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. and the 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. shift. I did approve for them to come in and work double shifts, so we have all of our officers here during the day while we have kids in school, the last day being tomorrow. So that was a major change we implemented within the last 24 hours to provide that safety and security for all of our staff and students.
And Stephen, we understand there are metal detectors at your schools. Can you describe to us just the process of how that works every day?
Absolutely. So February 22nd of this year, we implemented immediately random metal detector checks, which are used with the hand ones, and our drug dog checks. All campuses, pre-K through 12, they do that 2 times a week, and we've been doing that since February. We will continue that until tomorrow, and then we continue it into summer school, into the summer. Because like I said, safety and security, there's never downtime for that, and we want our parents to know that when they send their students to school, that we take that seriously here, and we have a great safety protocol in place, and we will check students randomly on all of our campuses.
It's really incredible to have, what we're getting a glimpse on what is happening on campuses in our community. It's the world that we're living in today. My boys are 14 and 11. Are you having parents, I know the phones have been ringing today, rightfully so. Are you guys having parents, caretakers, community members calling and saying, what are we doing? What are you teaching our kids? Today might be, maybe we should have been asking these questions earlier, but who would like to jump in here? Because when we're talking about the intruder drills, active shooter drills that are happening on campus, what are the kids learning? What are they going through on campus?
So I'll start there and just say that it's important that we are out front communicating with our parents about our standard response protocol. And in Channelview ISD, we are very active in communicating to our parents a common language. And so we're very clear as to how do we respond in emergency situations. We have a standard response protocol section on our website. We also actively communicate on our social media as well as call outs. And even as of yesterday evening, I was the first voice that they heard to just talk about what's going on around the world right now, what's specifically happened in Uvalde, and how we plan to respond to that, and how it connects to our current safety response protocol in our district.
And Captain Walker, let's talk a little bit about safety protocol in HISD. Many of us were chatting during the commercial break before this conversation. When we were in school, we didn't have active shooter drills. We didn't have metal detectors. I don't remember even seeing a police officer on campus with a gun. Is this going to be the new normal, where metal detectors and armed uniformed police are on campus in order to keep our young people safe?
So I can't speak for any other district, but we've been doing this for a while now, having police officers on campus. Like I said, there's anywhere from 2 to 3 officers on every campus, the secondary campuses, I'm sorry. And then we have our patrols that they frequently visit the elementary schools. And then we also have some of the principals, they may decide to hire an off-duty officer to work overtime at their campuses. So even some of the elementary schools have full-time officers on their campus.
You know, I think parents, we all want to have the information to move forward and keep our campuses safe. There's also the component here of, and someone's already said it today, about you see something, you say something. that also kind of trickles down the mental health platform, what we're talking about, because if somebody is maybe having some writings or photos or postings, if nobody says anything, no one's going to know. And I think that that is really important. Anybody want to jump in on that, on mental health and our children?
Well, if possible, I'd like to go back and tie that into the community piece. You were talking about the community calling. Pearland community called, and they called, one, because they wanted to support what happened at Robb Elementary. The other is they're like, what can we do, and what can we come together as a community to support? And in that process of see something, say something, the parents need to understand that we are together as a team, because they're at school a majority of the time, and they're at home and online and with their friends, gaming, whatever. If you see something, we need to communicate together and be on the same team and support that child in a holistic fashion.
Okay, I think we're going to take a quick break. To our viewers who are joining us once again, we're having a very interesting roundtable conversation. We are back on television now, but stick around, because after the break, we will continue the conversation.
That is right. We'll be right back. Superintendent with Edna ISD. If you can tell us what's different with yours.
Yeah, it comes down to a logistics problem as far as number of people that are there and available. And so I think that's one of the things about a small community is that people will come together to put out the support that they need to do. And the community's been very supportive of us starting up a Guardian program to where we have trained armed teachers and administrators in the district just to add to the fact that we have a limited number of law enforcement potential officers there within the county. And so there's no doubt if there's a problem, they're all going to show up in masses. Like we said before, it's that difference in trying to have an answer for the beginning piece before they get there and get engaged.
And Mr. O'Connor, just to underscore what you just said, so the Guardian program, you are arming and training teachers in the classroom. So they would be the first responder.
Yeah, and we hope for a very short period of time, and we hope that mostly it's there hopefully as a deterrent. We have signs up, we have things there to where, at Edna ISD that we're going to take security very seriously in terms of trying to have an answer for many times what's an unsolvable problem. But the biggest piece too is that just trying to educate the community, which includes the kids, because that is the greatest resource in getting ahead of some of these issues, because they're the ones who are on social media with the potential people that are having mental health issues. And they have been very good about, if they see something, turning it in, even if it turns out to be nothing. We always tell them we'd rather be safe than sorry, which I think all of us would hold to that.
100%. Larry Berger with Pearland ISD. Can you tell us what's different and what you've implemented in your district? Because you have officers on campus as well?
Correct. We do not have our own police department like HISD and other districts. We have a partnership with the city. So Pearland PD serves as SRO officers on our campuses. We have them at the secondary level and they patrol the elementary. And then we have a great working relationship with the city. So like today, we called out last night to Sergeant Beavers, who's a great resource for us, and said, hey, can we have extra patrol, not our SROs, cover the elementaries and be visible? So we had all the way from chief of police down to patrol at the campuses, making sure everybody was safe. So we have a partnership with the city, with our SROs, to make sure that our campuses are safe.
And Stephen McCandless, superintendent with Cleveland ISD, you're doing something interesting for your classrooms, specifically the portable classroom safety?
Absolutely. We have numerous portable classrooms in the district due to our rapid growth. And we met and discussed the security of those. For the perimeter, we will be installing fencing around all of those portable buildings that currently are in close proximity to neighborhoods or streets where anyone can just walk up to or in between those portable buildings. We want to ensure that people just do not have easy access to get close to those buildings.
Making it more difficult as well, and having that response time cut down, of course, in Edna and Pearland ISD and all the other things that have been implemented in these campuses across our city.
We do want to give a shout out to our guests just one more time in case our viewers on the broadcast did not meet them during that NBC special report. We have Dr. Tori C. Hill, superintendent with Channelview ISD, Ashley Miller, superintendent, Rhodes School for the Performing Arts, Larry Berger, superintendent from Pearland ISD, Robert A. O'Connor was superintendent with Edna ISD, Captain Artina Walker, HISD Police, and Stephen McCandless, superintendent with Cleveland ISD. Thanks so much, and it certainly takes a village and a lot of ideas, but one thing we can all agree on is we want our young people to be able to come home from school after the school day.
We appreciate you all so much taking time today to come in, have this conversation, and we'll have to do it again, have a conversation again.
Yes.
Thanks so much for your time. And we do have more information on our website, houstonlife.tv.
All right, we are going to do a little bit of a turn here, switching gears now. We have said on this show multiple times, we've talked about music and how we lean on it sometimes in the most difficult times in our life. Music is there to help lift us up and inspire us all.
Yeah, we want to introduce you to a local violinist who's bringing his unique flair to the classical four-stringed instrument.
We're going to chat with Damola, the violinist, and we're going to have a special performance as well in studio when Houston Life returns.
Sure is. All right, that does it for Houston Life. Channel 2 News at 4 is next.